What is going on, guys? Big Cloud here, back again with another video. All right, so let me just get this one particular thing out the way, and then I'll get straight into this and what I'm going to be doing from this point forward, obviously until E3 and beyond. All right, so as of right now, we already know what happened yesterday. We saw Microsoft's Inside Xbox. You guys already know how I felt. I had pretty much, I said what I had to say, during the stream. So this is what I'm going to do for my Xbox viewers. I know a lot of you are just like, y'all wanted me to really supposedly praise this. So this is what I'm going to do. Since I cannot be, bargained with, I can't be reasoned with when it comes to this information with Microsoft, especially with their actual events. As of right now, I will not be talking about Microsoft until after E3 2019. That way, when we get into E3 2019, we'll have all the information, whether it be the SoC that they're going for their new systems. We'll obviously have more details on Project Anaconda and Lockhart. We'll also have details on their new studios, hopefully. And of course, we'll get the true details on their Project xCloud. We'll have everything after E3. Until then, I will not be talking about leaks from Microsoft. Will not even be mentioning it at all until E3 2019. And y'all can hold me to that completely. As far as RGT, is concerned, I'll be talking, well, really, I won't be talking about it, but of course, my panel is open to talk about whatever they want to talk about. So if they do get mentioned, that's courtesy of the panel. Not yours truly. It will not even be one of our main topics. We'll be focusing strictly on the future of gaming. And as of right now, Sony is definitely in the spotlight. All right. So you guys have to E3 2019, and hopefully they'll answer all our questions and everybody can walk away with some sort of closure as of right now, because everything is definitely all over the place. And it just continues to get worse, especially with the news that I just read with Microsoft advertising the Xbox Sad Edition and Halo and split screen. And basically, they advertise that you can do split screen play with Halo, but only to find out that that's not even true and that's not even happening. So right now, I'd rather get away from this. I'd rather not get no more conversation with Microsoft, at least not for a while. I'm a little burnt out with Microsoft. I really am, okay? So there you guys go. Now, let's get into the future of gaming. Sony's Mark Cerny. Mark Cerny, the lead system architect of the very successful PlayStation 4, had an interview with The Wired, and it went viral. As of right now, they got tweeted out by numerous individuals. Numerous journalists have tweeted out the specifications and everything based on what he said. And basically, in the interview with The Wired, he confirmed everything that even I covered on this channel. Let me shout out a few individuals. Shout out to Fasha Games UK and Mads Gaming. All three of us have been very consistent with you when it came to covering all the specifications. I would say Mads has been a little bit more, definitely way more consistent than both of us, though. He's covered every specification. Me, I've covered one particular portion that I actually believe to be true, and that ended up being true in the long run when it came to the overall system. As of right now, the PlayStation 5 will indeed be using the 7nm microprocessor. They will be using the Zen 2 processors in the PlayStation 5. And that's what they're going to be going with from this point forward. No talks of RAM, if I'm not mistaken. There was no talks of RAM, but they did talk about a few other things such as the SSDs. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into it, and let's see what we get from here, okay? So the AMD chip will be at the heart of the system, all right? The CPU is based on the third generation of AMD's Ryzen line and contains 8 cores of the company's new 7nm Zen 2 microarchitecture. The GPU, a custom variant of Radeon's Navi family, will support ray tracing, a technique that models the travel of light to simulate complex interactions in 3D environments, while ray tracing is a staple of Hollywood visual effects, is beginning to worn its way into high-end processors in NVIDIA's recently announced RTX line. No game console has been able to manage that just yet. They go on further. Now, he does have a quote. So what I'll do is I'll put the quote, if you guys want, I'll put the quote right here on the screen right now. There's the quote. You guys can read that yourself on the actual screen there. That way I can include you. Let's go in a little further. Let's see. The AMD chip also includes a custom unit for 3D audio that Cerny thinks will redefine what sound can do in a video game. As a gamer, he says, it's been a little bit of a frustration that audio did not change too much between PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4. I couldn't agree with him more. A lot of the sounds are definitely not, it's not that big of a jump. It's not. With the next console, the dream is to show how dramatically different the audio experience can be when we apply significant amounts of hardware horsepower into it. Now, let me just stop for a second there. What he's basically saying is, let's say all right, you guys remember that very, very good game that I played on the channel for you guys? It's called Alien Isolation. Picture this. Obviously, when you see the Alien Isolation, you only have two options. If you have a flamethrower, you can make it go away, or if you don't have no weapons, your only choice is either to hide or distract it by, luring it towards the other enemies, okay? Basically what they're saying, or basically he's saying is, and that these particular set pieces, these scenes can be so much more better, especially if they have better sound design with them. So for example, footsteps come into question here. When the alien or whatever NPC or character is near you and he's walking behind you in the hallways and he's walking across, you can hear the difference in sounds in terms of the footsteps and how precise they are going past the hallways. With the alien, you can pretty much tell the difference between the footsteps between an alien and that of a human. Stuff like that. That's what he's talking about. Things like that can immerse you into the experience where you can actually know where it's coming from. I know a lot of you played Resident Evil 2 remastered with the Tyrant. The footsteps get louder and louder and louder, so you know the Tyrant is close, but you don't know which door he's going to come through. With this new technology, you would be able to get a much better pinpoint, accurate position of where he's coming from, such as the walls. You can hear him through the echoes of the hallway going through the walls, etc., etc. Those type of details is what Sony's trying to work with, or that's what Sony's trying to get into the PlayStation 5 for you in new games. And I can only imagine what games like Bloodborne would sound like with those type of improvements. I'm just saying, the possibilities are definitely endless. So that's my quick little example there. The results, Cerny says, will make you feel more immersed in the game as sounds come at you from above, from behind, and from the side, like I just explained. While the effect will require no external hardware, it will work through TV speakers and virtual surround sound. He allows that the gold standard will be headphone audio. And yes, headphones definitely should be a big part of this as well, because let's face it, a lot of us do game with headphones on. Let's see. One of the words Cerny used to describe the audio may be familiar to those who follow virtual reality. Presence, that feeling of existing inside of a simulated environment when he mentions it. I asked him about PlayStation VR, the peripheral system that has sold more than 4 million units since its 2016 release. Specifically, I asked if there will be a next-gen PSVR to go alongside this next-gen console. I won't go into the details of our virtual reality strategy. However, he says, beyond saying that VR is very important to us and that the current PSVR headset is compatible with the new console. Obviously, we covered that in a patent. Here it is on the screen. We did cover that in a patent, and there was also a patent for new improvements, such as even a wireless VR headset, if I remember correctly. They were talking about controllers that require cameras or something like that. It's like a little glove that goes in your hands. It's like a technique that they're using with cameras where it tracks your fingers. That was another thing that was going around with patents. So PSVR is looking pretty interesting next generation for sure, without a doubt. And it's good to see that PlayStation VR is definitely not going to be left behind. And since we know for a fact that backwards compatibility is definitely going to be here, all the VR titles that Sony is working for the PlayStation 4 will work for the PlayStation 5 day one, and also get enhancements if they see fit for the PlayStation 5 to enhance your experience even further. So that's another cool thing. So basically, Sony is indeed going into that Microsoft realm and will improve their games upon each release, which is going to be definitely a good improvement. Let's see. So, new CPU and new GPU. The ability to deliver unprecedented visuals and audio effects in a game, and maybe a PSVR sequel at some point. That's all great. But there's something else that excites Cerny even more. Something that he calls a true game changer. Something that more than anything else is the key to the next generation. It's a hard drive. Now, this right here, okay, this is where he legit blew me away with the PlayStation 5. Let me see if I can find this in the article, but I'm going to talk for a second here. He blew me away with this. With the PlayStation 4, we already know load times is definitely something that's annoying for a lot of games. You basically, when you fire up the game, you get the little picture of the background, it goes to the game, then it loads into it, and then you have to, hit start and all that, then you still got to load into the game. With the PlayStation 5, Sony is going with something completely different. A new special made solid state drive that isn't available on the PC. These new solid state drives that they're working for the PlayStation 5, and I'm guessing it will be for the Xbox until we get confirmation. I'm guessing it's for the Xbox. These new solid state drives are going to be strictly like unprecedented compared to the PlayStation 4. Now, from what I'm looking at here, he actually did show off the SSD in action here, and it was pretty interesting. What he did was he fired up Spider-Man for the PlayStation 4. Now, one thing about Mark Cerny, everybody knows, if you don't know, Mark Cerny is more than just a lead system architect. He's actually a game developer. He created Marble Madness. The dude also helped work on franchises back when he was 19 years old with Sony, when he was working with Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, Ratchet and Clank, and things of that nature. Now, what's interesting about what he showed with the comparisons between the dev kit of the PlayStation 5 and what they're working with versus the PlayStation 4 is basically this. In Spider-Man PS4, if you played it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Fast traveling. When you fast travel in Spider-Man, it will show you a whole scene where Spider-Man is on the train and he's like, just around people, and they're going to whatever spot you fast travel to. On the base PlayStation 4, I'm guessing that's what he showed this on, or the PS4 Pro. Actually, no, it's the Pro. I'm sorry. On the PS4 Pro, it took 15 seconds for him to get from point A to point B from a fast travel point. He actually showed off how fast it is with the new SSD on the PlayStation 5. It took him 0.8 seconds to get from point A to point B with the new SSDs in Spider-Man. That's pretty interesting and telling. Another thing he talks about here, and I'm going to read the quote, that's just one consequence of an SSD. There's also the speed with which a world can be rendered, and thus the speed with which a character can move through that world. Cerny runs a similar two-console demonstration this time with the camera moving up on one of Midtown's avenues on the original PS4. The camera moves at about the speed of about the speed Spidey hits while web swinging. No matter how powered up you get as Spider-Man, you can never go any faster than this. Cerny says that's because that's simply how fast we can get the data off the hard drive. On the next generation console, the camera speeds uptone like it's mounted on a fighter jet. Wow, okay. Predictably, Cerny paused the action to prove that the surrounding environment remains perfectly crisp, while the next-gen console will support 8K graphics. TVs that deliver it and a few are far in between, or they are few and far between. So we're using a 4K TV. Now, as far as this 8K thing, I know a lot of people were posting this on Twitter. They're going to be doing this. They did talk about 8K. Unfortunately, it's not going to be true 8K. What it's going to be, guys, just them using techniques to get to certain, pretty much they're going to get better like lighting and texture. That's what they're going to be doing. It's not really going to be like that. All right. So don't expect true 8K. What you can expect is some pretty interesting improvements in lighting. And obviously temporal injection is probably still going to exist, so they might go with temporal injection version 2 for Spider-Man going on the PS5. I'm talking about the PS4 version, temporal injection 2, to improve it on PS5. And then when they eventually make the sequel to Spider-Man for the PS4, they'll do the exact same thing for PS5. You know, it's going to be probably part like V2 for the PS5 version of Spider-Man 2. So that's what they're going to do. Let's see. He goes on a little further. I know this article does go on a little bit, so I'm actually going to cut it in a little bit. I'm actually going to stop at one particular part here. This is what he has to say going further. What else developers will be able to do is a question Cerny can't answer yet. Because those developers are still figuring it all out. But he sees the SSD as unlocking an entirely new age, one that upends the very tropes that have become the age. That become the bedrock of gaming. We're very used to flying logos at the start of the game and graphics-heavy selection screens. He says even things like multiplayer lobbies and intentionally detailed loadout processes because you don't want players just to be waiting. At the moment, Sony won't cop the exact details about the SSD, who makes it. You know, they won't talk about it. Whether it utilizes the new, standard or not, again, it remains to be a question. But Cerny claims that it has a new raw bandwidth higher than any SSD available for PCs. That's not all. The raw read speed is important, Cerny says, but so are the details of the I/O inputs. Pretty much the input audio mechanisms and the software stack that we put on top of them. I got a PlayStation 4 Pro, and then I put the SSD that cost as much as the PlayStation 4 Pro. It might be 1/3 faster as opposed to 19 times faster for the next-gen console, judging from the fast travel demo. End quote. So, again... a lot to take in. It's a lot to take in here. I'm literally stumbling on my own words. I'm so excited, but it's just so much to take in here. Everything he went over here. Definitely a lot to take in. But as you guys clearly can see, Sony is not playing around with the PlayStation 5. They're not skimping out on details. So as far as the power, the CPU, or basically the SoC, there hasn't really been no demo. So what I'm going to say, I'll probably say since it's new and it's pretty impressive what they're doing is, and obviously they're going to probably charge you $500 for this and take $100 loss according to that particular article and that source. Odds are this actual system could be on par, a little bit below that of a 2060. Pretty much, yeah, that a little bit below a 2060 that's out there on the market. I don't think it will be on par with the 2060, but I think it will be a little below that of the 2060. It looks like it can be a little better than the GTX 1080 from what I'm looking at. Looking a little better. But even if it's better than the 1080, again, it's definitely a reach. I know, I'm throwing it out there. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just throwing out a possibility. You don't have to hold me to it. This is a possibility. I'm just throwing out what they could do. Sony did talk about performance a while ago, so they are going to be focused on 60 frames per second. But I guess the question is, since we're going to be having enhanced titles, is it going to be an option or is it going to be both for the first party, like as a whole? Like, are they going to be going for 4K 60, or are they going to try to go for the crazy 8K visual and 30 frames per second? You know, that's a good question as well, going with these new systems. Maybe they will have performance modes. Performance modes might come back for sure with the PlayStation 5. You know, I think they probably would do that. That makes sense. Or visual modes, you know. Definitely a lot to take in for the new system. A lot to just speculate on. I'm very excited for it. So that's pretty much it for the information with the PlayStation 5. Definitely a lot to take in. I know it's a pretty hefty video, but a lot of details. What you guys think? What you guys excited for? I know for a fact that Ape Escape's anniversary is coming up. So is Sony working on an Ape Escape sequel? Is Sony working to get Ape Escape remastered for the PS4 or possibly built from the ground up on the PlayStation 5 and are basically looking into reviving more franchises? We know we got Crash Bandicoot for the PlayStation 4 and Spyro the Dragon and Medieval for PS4. But what does that say about PS5? Sony has a lot of classics they can work to get, work from the ground up and come back. Resident Evil 2 remake has pretty much revigorated the Resident Evil license. We know for a fact that other games have pretty much just, set a standard for their studios. So definitely a lot to take in. But nonetheless, that is pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen. That brings us to the end of this video. A very long one, but I'm very excited nonetheless of everything I just went over with you guys. Is there anything else you guys want me to talk about? Definitely sound off in the comment section below, and I will definitely do my best to answer that to the best of my ability. I will see you guys on my next upload, which I'm definitely working on right now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, hit that like button. Make sure you hit that bell icon so you are notified, all that jazz. And I'll see you guys on my next upload. All right? Big Cloud signing out. Y'all be good. Deuces.